Number 88. Simon the Sorcerer 2. Until about 10 years ago or so, I didn't even know the Simon the Sorcerer series of adventure games existed. And I think even then, I only learned of them by scrolling through ScumVM's compatibility list. I still had no idea what they were, or why there were several of them. And this is the only entry from that franchise on AdventureGamers.com's list of the top 100 adventure games of all time, so one assumes it's the best of the bunch. But honestly, it's just not bad. As evidenced by the 2 in the title, this is the second title in the series. But you don't have to be familiar with the first game to get into this one. The main character Simon will stop several times and explain things that happened in the previous game in a bit of fourth wall breaking fun.
Hang on a moment, not everybody bought the last game, you know. In case you didn't know, these are the 2 demons I met in the last game.
Technically speaking, this was super easy to get running. If you have the original discs or CD, ScumVM supports Simon the Sorcerer 2 handily. Or you could just buy it on GOG.com. They've already packaged the CD version of the game into a ScumVM wrapper for you, nice and easy. Also, GOG is the best. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on their stream team and you should totally watch. But back to the game. Simon is actually an ordinary dude in our ordinary world. But in the first game, I guess he wound up in this magical world, learned some actual magic, and took down a bad wizard named Sordid. Well, Sordid's not too pleased, so he enlists the help of a wizard wannabe named Runt to build him a new robot body and create a magical wardrobe which will ensnare the now older Simon. Like an idiot, Simon climbs in, but I guess we wouldn't have much of a game if he didn't. Simon finds himself back in that magical land, but he wound up outside helpful wizard Calypso's shop, instead of Sordid's death fort, and Simon immediately starts working on finding a way home. And it's about here that you learn that Simon's a completely unlikable douchebag. And not in a lovable loser sort of way like Larry Laffer, but more of a massive self-entitled asshole like Donald Trump. I know his comments are supposed to be dry and witty, but he honestly comes off as just a snide jerk, and his actions don't do him any good either. At one point, he turns someone into a dog just so he can steal his seat, and then he turns that dog into a pair of furry shoes so he can slip past a monster. His casual disregard for other people is all over this game. And speaking of the puzzles, there aren't any logic puzzles. They're all inventory puzzles, and you'll want to have a walkthrough handy to decipher some of the game's rather insane logic. For example, at one point you're trying to get into the castle's treasury, but to deal with the pair of demons guarding it, you accidentally block the opening. Now you need to find another way around, and your only clue is that a nearby window allows you to see the whole city. You have to get balloons from a fast food mascot, one at a time, tie them to this very specific railing, and once you've tied 3 of them to it, they'll carry Simon up to the treasury window. They made puzzles like this specifically to sell hint books. But before you think that I hate this game, there are some very good things here. For one, the pixel art is absolutely fantastic. There are some gorgeous backgrounds here, and the animation is pretty solid for the time, too. The world is built around fairy tales, and the way they turn some of those tales upside down is rather amusing. The music is pretty good when it's not drowning out the speech, and the voice actors all acquit themselves pretty well. The dialogue trees are okay, and you can almost make Simon a decent person through them. I don't think you can die at any point, although I could be wrong, which is good. Some of the jokes land, others don't, and I rarely laughed out loud. But the part that redeems the entire game for me, the part that had me giggling helplessly for several minutes, the reason that I will tell you to play this game or even just watch this part on a Let's Play somewhere, is the role players. Near the end of the game, Simon finds a group of tabletop role players, but their world already has Dungeons and Dragons in it, so instead they play apartments and accountants, casting themselves as soldiers, students, or hackers in our world. This whole sequence is absolutely brilliant and hilarious if you've ever played a session of tabletop role-playing with your friends, and you can sit and listen to their escapades for several minutes until Simon himself cuts it off, which just makes me dislike him even more.
You fall about 20 feet before landing comparatively unharmed.
Comparatively to what?
Scott, which is what you landed on.
As I said at the start, Simon the Sorcerer 2 is okay. It's got some good bits, some bad bits, one wonderful moment, and one huge jerkwad for a main character, which made the surprising ending all the more enjoyable for me. Talk about getting exactly what he deserved. Honestly, I don't know if it belongs on the list of the top 100 adventure games, but if it does, it certainly should be lower on this list. The Dig and Toonstruck, Spycraft, and the Journeyman Project 2 were all better than this game. But I cannot deny that Simon the Sorcerer 2 does have its charms.
I was plagued by doubts, fears, and mysteries, and aided by a madman, Red. You had to know how lonely I was.
Next up, number 87.
I incinerated my best friend. Red told me he wanted to die. You had to know how guilty I felt.